Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Today is all about more. What the heck is going on with Network Spinal? I know I have gotten lots and lots of people that are like, hey, I'm trying to tell other people about this and I have no idea what to say. Don't worry, you are definitely in the popular crowd. And today we're going to understand a little bit about why. So this class is all of the things that you need and want to know about network, but didn't even know what to ask. So first thing is I want you to be warned. Okay, what you're about to see, you can't unsee. What you're about to learn, you can't unlearn. What you're about to experience, you can't unexperience. And the same is true for Network Spinal. Everybody asks me, well, do I have to keep doing this for the rest of my life? You're not, once you learn something, it's not like it goes away. You may forget to use it, but it's never gone. So the gains that you make undergoing network care, those gains you take for the rest of your life. And because of the way that Network Spinal works, your body will be applying what it learns here to every aspect of life. So once you move forward, once you step over this precipice, you're in it. There's no going back. And trust me, that's a good thing here. So why is it so hard to explain what network is and how it works? This is my daughter, Zoe. Whenever I asked her, how do you explain what daddy does? This is the face that she gave me, okay? And this is kind of pretty much what it feels like, right? The first reason that Network Spinal is so hard to explain is because Network Spinal is wellness-based healthcare. And healthcare is something that is incredibly misunderstood in our society. When most of us hear the word healthcare or we see the word healthcare on the news, what we're actually talking about is who's going to pay for medical care, okay? And medical care is over here on the left side. The goal of medicine is really to stop premature death, to stop the breakdown, to stop the destruction, to stop the disease, to stop the symptoms. Okay, this is over here. This is all about treatment. Okay, healthcare is over here on the left side. It is a drastically different direction, and it has drastically different goals, different outcomes, and different approaches. Healthcare is about growth. It's about education. It's about awareness. It's not about necessarily getting rid of our symptoms or diseases, but if you're growing and becoming more aware and you have a high level of awareness, symptom management isn't really even an issue. Okay, whoops, where are we? There we go. So healthcare and medicine are completely incomparable. So because most of us is only used to medicine, whenever we're explaining this stuff, we try to explain it through the lens of medicine, and it's just not going to work. It's not even comparing apples to oranges. It's comparing apples to suppositories, okay? Yes, you could use one as a replacement for the other one, but at best, it's going to leave a bad taste in your mouth, right? And at worst, like I'm just not even going to go there, okay? So we have to recognize in our society that we do not understand healthcare. And if we don't understand it, like we can't ask for it. We can't expect it. We can't even see if it's happening or not, okay? Health is a condition of optimum physical, social, mental, yes, and spiritual well-being. This is from Dorland's Medical Dictionary. Spiritual well-being is a part of this, okay? It's not merely the absence of diseases or infirmities. Just as a little side note, the definition of spirituality in medicine is your relationship with yourself and others, how you see, how you experience yourself and other, okay? The body has a superior wisdom that's in favor of life rather than death. Again, this is from Harvard Medical School. Okay, this is the power that we depend on for life, and all doctors are responsible for letting their patients know of this great force that's working within them. And that's what we do in healthcare. We liberate that force that starts you off as a single cell and builds the most complex mechanism that we know of without you reading any instructions or studying any textbooks or anatomy textbooks, right? It's just this natural process of life that moves towards more complexity, more evolution, and more growth. And that's what we have all of inside of us. It's just about getting more of that. So network spinal, despite popular belief, is chiropractic, but it's actually the next level of chiropractic. And in chiropractic, we have what's called that inborn wisdom. We call it innate, which just means inborn. Okay. And what the goal of all chiropractic is to free and support that natural intelligence, that natural wisdom that's inside each one of us, through freeing the nervous system, which is the organizing system of the body, of any mechanical interference. So even though I'm doing like this weird stuff where I'm waving my hands around and I'm doing these light touches on the body, the goal is to make sure that your nervous system is free of mechanical interference. Now, the difference between traditional chiropractic and what we do here is, in traditional chiropractic, it's the chiropractor's body that's getting your body unstuck, which is great. You get unstuck. Yay! In the next level of chiropractic, chiropractic 2.0, what we want to do is we want to help you and your body get yourself unstuck, to get your life unstuck. If I do it, right, you're unstuck, but you didn't necessarily learn how to get yourself unstuck. So it's going to happen again in the same way or in a variation of different ways. But if you can get yourself unstuck, if your body gets itself unstuck, it learns how to do that. And worst case scenario, it can do it again and again. Best case scenario, it learned how it got stuck and it just does things totally different so it doesn't get stuck again. That's the goal. It's long-term growth, long-term unstuckness, rather than just momentary unstuckness. So that intelligence, that innate intelligence, we in Network Spinal have broken this down into these 6 different, you could call them flavors. Now, what an intelligence is it's that which organizes. It's that which uses information and energy to build something, to create something, to organize something, to bring something together. So every different level of intelligence, and it's all the same intelligence, but just kind of break it down, it organizes different levels of us. So, and the different touches that I have, the different parts of your body, the different ways that your body is approached will, in a sense, kind of bring your body's awareness to these different intelligences so it can use them better. So the first one is the biointelligence. Biointelligence is that intelligence which organizes our basic cellular structures. It's the baseline, bottom line survival. How is your cell functioning? It's going to govern our digestion. It's going to govern our elimination. It's going to govern where we put certain cells, whether we repair a cell, whether we replace a cell. All of that is a massive amount of information that has to be processed and organized, but it's very, very basic on a cellular level. The next level up in complexity, which requires more energy and more intelligence, is what we call the emotional energetic intelligence. Emotional is not about our feelings and our emotions. It's about the interaction between things. When your body needs to react to a loud sound, whenever your body needs to run through the rain, whenever you have to respond or react to your environment in this here and now, that's the emotional intelligence. Whenever you need tissues, which are a bunch of cells coming together, you're going to need an organizing intelligence to get the cells to work together. And that's what the emotional intelligence is all about. The next level up in complexity of that is our lower mental. This is our thinking. This is our good. This is our bad. This is our right. This is our wrong. This is where this goes. This is how I fit in. This person is this type of person. That event is this type of event, a traumatic event or a good event. It's lower mental is all about categorizing things and concepts so that our body can work with it. The next level up is going to be upper mental intelligence. Upper mental intelligence is about optimization. It's not just what is this thing and where does it fit in? It's how do I make the most use of this thing? How could I use this thing in a way that's outside of what I've been taught? How can I optimize getting all of these things working together? Then we have what's called soul energetic intelligence. Your soul is like that unique tune that you are, right? That authentic expression of infinity, that unique signature that is you. Soul energetic intelligence is organizing how is your life in harmony with that authentic, unique, one-of-a-kind you. And then the very top level is what we call universal intelligence. And that's the intelligence that organizes souls together. Okay, gets community, it's nations, it's times in history. It's much, much bigger. So in chiropractic, it's all about the spine. And why is that? Well, that's because the spine is the closest that we can get to your central nervous system, which is basically where all of that intelligence interacts through the body to organize this form. And we have a saying, the shape, position, tension, and tone of your spine is in direct relation to the shape, position, and tension and tone of your life. If your nervous system is distorted, your life is going to be distorted. Your expression is going to be distorted. Your perceptions are going to be distorted. Your thinking is going to be distorted because all of that happens through our central nervous system. So that's why chiropractic has always been focused on the spine. The first chiropractor said famously in chiropractic world, the goal of, or the realm of medicine is the physical. The realm of religion is the spiritual. The realm of the chiropractor is the connection between those two. In other words, the first chiropractic adjustments, the focus was, can we help authentic you come through this physical form uninhibited? If you are authentically you, not wasting energy, being disharmonious to yourself or to your environment, things are going to go better. You're not going to be expressing as much discomfort, as much disease. It was really never about back pain. Whenever you're your authentic self, you feel better and you don't have to fight back pain. But then somewhere along the lines, chiropractic got pulled into the lens of medicine, and then it really got messed up. So Network Spinal is actually about wellness. Now, as misunderstood as health is in our society, wellness is even more misunderstood. Okay, the Global Institute for Wellness defines wellness as the active pursuit. Okay, so there's some doing here that's required of activities, choices, and lifestyles that lead to holistic health, which again is optimal function in all those different dimensions of you. So whenever you come in and I start asking you about your job, right? Or I start asking you about, what's happening at home, or I start asking you about how's your relationship, how much love are you feeling? It's because Network Spinal is including all of this, right? It's not just about your body, it's about you and your whole life. Because here's the reality. If you're in the wrong job, if you're in the wrong relationship, okay, if you have a poor relationship with yourself, okay, life is supposed to suck. It's supposed to hurt because pain is in our life to disrupt it, to say, you've got to make a change. So everybody wants to come in here and they want to feel better. But if all of these are not going well, you can't feel better. And if I snapped my fingers and made you feel better while you continued in an unhealthy lifestyle or in an unhealthy job, you would be worse off in the future because I just enabled you to continue doing something that's not going to produce more long-term health. So whenever you come in and I'm talking about all this weird stuff, or I'm asking you, hey, how's life? And you tell me something way outside of your body, that's awesome. Because that's a part of health. That's a part of wellness, and it has to be incorporated into this. So just out of curiosity, raise your hands if compared to before you started care to now, you have either changed jobs or changed your relationship with your job? Raise your hand. Okay. Now, out of those people that raise their hand, is there more enjoyment in your job than there was before? Raise your hand if the answer is no. I hate my job more so. Okay, we had one hand go up. It sounds like we got a little bit more work to do. Okay, out of anybody in this room, raise your hand if you have had significant changes in your relationships. If you have dropped dysfunctional relationships, if you have gotten into healthier relationships, go ahead and raise your hand. If you've noticed that the relationships you have been in are actually very different, raise your hand. Now, how many of you, and hopefully your significant others are not here, how many of you can honestly say my relationships are worse? Not a single hand in the room, okay? This is the goal of Network Spinal. What the guy that developed this said, and this is actually the first time I've been not embarrassed enough to be able to say this. He said, our goal is to help lives change. And yeah, sometimes spines will change too. Who wants a straighter spine if your life continues to suck? Nobody. So this is the goal, because again, it's really about wellness. Okay. Network Spinal is about reorganizational healing. When most of us think of healing, what we think about is what's called, oh, and the word just slipped my mind. But basically it's the healing that brings us back. It's restorative healing. We think of restorative healing, which is how can I get myself back to the place that I was right before the disease? How can I get myself right back to the place where I was right before the injury, right before the trauma? And what we're asking for, not knowing it, none of us ask for this consciously, but if we're asking for that, what we're asking for is to go back to the place that was ripe for the breakdown to happen, that was ripe for the disease or the injury, trauma to happen. Reorganizational healing is about growth. It's about evolution. It's about, can you take what's happening in your life and can you become stronger because of it? Because you become wiser, can you become more efficient? Can you become, as scary as this may sound, a better version of yourself than you were before this negative thing happened? That's the goal. Now, this is from the American Journal of Human Genetics, which is in the Journal of Nature. This is the tippy top of peer-reviewed research in our society in this day and age. It says neither genes nor environment cause disease. I'm going to say that again. Neither genes nor environment, germs, cause disease. It's simply that an organism, we is that organism, is unsuited for adaptive action in one or several environments. If we cannot grow from the stress of life, we will not be here for very long. If we are not becoming stronger and wiser because of our environment, if we are not adapting and growing and evolving because of entropy, we're breaking down and we're dying. There is no standing still. So Network Spinal is about adaptation. I don't want you to be that same version of yourself that got hurt. We have to be something totally different. Otherwise, the flow of life is going to take us out. If we're not adapting and growing stronger, we are dying. So we talked about intelligence. We talked about the ability to process information, and that's very necessary for adaptation. But what else is necessary to adapt? What other element, what other piece do we need other than intelligence and information to evolve? What other piece do we need for a breakthrough? When stress happens, we can either break down or we can break through into another level of being. What is that deciding factor? Anybody?
Say willingness.
Willingness, good, good. But what's necessary even for willingness to be there? Awareness, that's the information, right? So information is necessary. Awareness is necessary. Being able to get to wellness, but it's like a basic, okay? Energy. Energy is the potential to do work. If you do not have potential to do work, if you do not have gas in your gas tank, don't expect to get far down the road, okay? Now, I will be totally honest. I cringe when people say that network spinal is energy work. And I get this all the time. And yes, it's subtle, okay? But I cringe whenever I hear that network spinal is energy work, because most of the time our preconceived notions of energy work is some practitioner is gathering energy from some other place and giving it to the body, or the practitioner is dispelling the negative energy and getting rid of it, okay? And network spinal is absolutely not that. But if I'm real honest, it is energy work. It is energy work because everything is energy work. Everything is affecting your potential. If there is change, energy work happened. If you take a drug or supplement, you've done energy work. If you have had a tooth removed, you've had energy work, because it took energy to do all of that stuff. Okay, so yes, in a sense, network spinal is energy work, but not in the way that most people think it is. Okay, because what we're doing here is we're assessing the energy state. If there is a low level of potential, if you don't have much gas in your tank, we cannot expect you to get to the next city, much less the next level of well-being. So the energy work that I do is assessing how much energy is in this part of your system. Is there more energy in a different dimension of you, in a different part of you? How can we help you connect to that part that has lots of energy and allow that potential to spill over into the area that's struggling with energy? So we're looking at these different energy states, okay? And anytime that a system is at a certain level of energy, it's going to express a certain level of organization. So if a system is at energy poor, it's breaking down, okay? This is the time for medicine. When we don't have enough energy for the intelligence that runs our body to keep it going, and it's breaking down, okay? If you take a piece of wood and you light it on fire, all of that heat is releasing all of the energy that's holding that wood together. And at the end of all that, you have ash. Ash is a lower energy state than wood. So there has to be a breakdown because all that energy is being released so that system can be maintained. But it takes less energy to maintain ash than it does to maintain wood. So all of our focus is about avoiding this in medicine. That's what we want to do. We want to stabilize people. And I definitely get people coming in that are in energy poor. Their systems are breaking down. And without intervention, things are going to go really, really bad. Okay. One level up, which is where stabilization happens, is what's called energy neutral. Energy neutral means there's enough energy in a system to maintain its current level of organization. Okay. It's not breaking down, but it's also not growing and evolving. Okay. And we have two different kind of flavors of this. We have low energy neutral and we have high energy neutral. Low energy neutral, the system is maintaining, and it's maintaining purely to avoid dropping down. There is no extra energy there whatsoever. So whenever people come in a low energy state, what I see is, hey, how you doing today? Well, it's been a week today, or I don't even really know what's going on. I'm just here. Or, man, there's just all this stress out there. And it's just, oh, it sucks, right? That person's maintaining, but that's it. That's as high as we get, right? And so again, the outcomes here, because there's a low level of energy, are not really going to be that spectacular. Okay, we're definitely going to make some progress, but we're not going to be expecting the mountaintop experience from a system like that. Now, this level, okay, it can be a habit. It can very easily be a habit. And it is a habit for a lot of us because this is just what we've seen. This is what we've been raised as. This is just the normal for us. And so despite what we really want, unconsciously, we will choose to drive around with a quarter tank of gas almost all the time, right? And we're just like, we don't even know to ask for more than that. So if we can gain a little bit more, we can move up into high energy neutral. High energy neutral is when things are good, right? We want to maintain them because they're so good. When somebody comes in their high energy neutral state, they're always going to tell me how hard they're working. Okay. They have enough energy to expend their energy, but I mean, to expend to do work, but they're not really changing. So they're always working on stuff. They're always learning stuff. They're always figuring stuff out, right? But we're not really getting a lot of change, which high energy neutral is an amazing place to be. If we can get somebody from energy poor into high energy neutral, that is going to be a life-changing experience for that person. So do not think that these are good or bad, right? They're just a way of being. And there's a right time and a right place for all of these different things. Okay. Energy poor is actually pretty good for sleeping. Your body actually has to break down a little bit in order for you to heal. Right? We don't want to be high energy woo while we're sleeping. It's not going to go well, right? So don't confuse any of this with good or bad. It just is, right? Okay. And then once we can get a little bit more energy, we can move into energy rich. When a system is in an energy rich, it has so much abundant energy that potential is actually flowing out and it's positively impacting the systems around it. It's overflowing with energy. Energy rich is where instantaneous, spontaneous healing happens. Okay, it's where we have this epiphany. Oh my gosh, I didn't even recognize this, right? And then all of a sudden we start doing things differently. It's whenever our body can undergo what some might even call miraculous changes, which these are documented. We can see this in the scientific literature, even though it's not very studied. Our body can make instantaneous changes. But again, we have to have enough potential to do that. So part of this process is to work with every single system that comes in and say, how can we move into whichever energy state is right for this moment, depending on what we need. So Network Spinal is about energy efficiency. Okay, you could light a cigarette with a bomb, but you're not going to really enjoy it. It's too much energy, right? So it's not really about more energy. It's about the right time, the right place, the right form for the right reason. And again, energy is the potential to do work. Now, I know you all love it whenever you come in and you're like, man, I'm feeling so sad or depressed. And I'm like, hey, where do you feel that? Right? There's a method to my madness. And again, this is from peer-reviewed scientific research. This is not just my creation or my wild idea. When we have experiences, okay, that is energy in our body. And if we can tap into that energy, we can use it to change energy states. So when I'm bringing your awareness to what you're feeling, where you're feeling, what that really is helping your system to recognize how efficient is it using its energy. Do we want to use that energy to stay the same? Do we want to use that energy for defense and neutrality? Or do we want to use that energy to open up and grow? Okay, so it's all about energy efficiency. Network Spinal is actually about your relationship with you. And this is, again, why I very much hesitate to come in and get anyone unstuck unless they absolutely need it because their system is so low in energy. Because again, if I am the one that saves you, your relationship with you is not going to develop and grow to the point where you become the one that's in control of your body and your life and yourself. And that's the ultimate goal. Okay, because it's wellness. It's about optimal function of every part of you. So when we're studying you and your relationship with you, and at some point we will have a whole class on orientations so that everybody can kind of get to know and play around with what are the different possibilities. But the way that I approach your body is based on your orientation. The way that I touch your body is based on where you are, okay, in your relationship with you. If I come up and I touch your body opposite to your nature, your body's going to go more into a defense. It's going to use its energy to try to stay the same. If I come in and I add energy into your system, into any system that's congruent with its nature, that system, your system, will spontaneously change, adapt, and grow and evolve. So what we're trying to identify, and I don't talk about this very often, but you might hear me say it, is are you an internal, are you an external? Are you an outside in type of person? Are you an inside out person? So whenever I ask you, hey, imagine the universe and the planet is spinning in front of you and you're looking down on this room and you're letting the body go, right? I'm doing that to help your system experience more of what's called an external orientation. Whoops. Okay. And if I tell you go deep, deep inside your body, feel the depths, feel the strength of your bones, feel the solidness of your pelvis, I'm asking you to shift and experience more of an internal orientation. Because again, when we experience authentic to our nature, there's more energy there as opposed to going against our authentic nature. Are you fueled by self? Are you fueled by others? Okay. This one's a little bit tricky, because what fuels your system is many times not what you're used to. Our normal is not necessarily ideal. If it was, you wouldn't be seeking help from some weirdo like me. So when we're playing around with this stuff, I'm not asking you what you think. As a matter of fact, most of the time, I'm not even asking you, I'm asking your body. I'm asking for what works. That's the most important thing. It's not about right. It's not about wrong. It's not about what you're used to. It's not about what you're comfortable with. It's about, does it work? Does it work really well, or does it not work at all? The goal is to find that thing that works really well for this moment in this time for this type of change. And then the next moment, all bets may be off. Okay, another element of getting to know your authentic self and your relationship with you is your triad of change. I've had a class about this. I'll have another one. This one is a bit more complicated and challenging because we have different triads for different phases of our life, for different activities. So again, this is really about what works. It's not about right, wrong. So you'll notice at the center of this is energy, and that's what this is all about. How efficiently are you using your energy? When a change happens in the human system, there's three elements that are part of this. One is perception, our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, our experiences. Another is our behavior, what's done, the actions. Okay. And the last one is the structure, the order in which things are done, the way things are set up, the physical structure, the environment. Okay, all of these are parts of change, but each one of us has a unique recipe. And we approach change in the order of that recipe. Change is going to be effortless and it's going to happen almost magically. And if we approach change opposite our unique recipe, at best, it's going to be painful. At worst, we're going to drop an energy pour and things are going to start to break down. Okay. Network spinal cannot be understood. So even though I'm up here doing all of this stuff, just like life cannot be understood, it can only be experienced. So I get people quite often that are like, I just don't get it. And the good news is you don't have to. Isn't that great? You can eat a sandwich and you don't have to understand how to break it down and turn it into a heart cell. Isn't that great to not need to understand where every single little piece needs to go in your body? Isn't it great to just experience it? And that's really what network spinal is. Okay, it's an experience. The understanding many times can bring enough peace of mind that we will give ourselves permission to open up enough to experience. Knowing comes from experience, okay? Believing, thinking, learning, all of that does not require knowing. If someone asks me if I believe that Colorado exists, I say, no, I don't believe it. I know it because I've experienced it. You can't argue with it. You couldn't tell me anything that would say it doesn't exist because I've experienced it, right? It's immutable. There is a super intelligence that exists in each of us, and it's infinitely smarter, and it possesses a technical know-how that is far beyond our present understanding. If we want the most out of life, we have to learn and develop the skills to work with this intelligence, okay, instead of trying to tell that intelligence what's best, because it's just going to laugh. We can work with it, but once we start to try to boss it around, okay, we get a lot of problems. And this is one of the main reasons that if you look at our society, we have the best technology, we have the best medical care, we have the best drugs, okay, we have the best know-how, and our health statistics suck. All of the big killers in our society are all degenerative diseases, heart disease, metabolic diseases like diabetes, Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer. They are all degenerative diseases because we're trying to control this system that is much smarter than we are. And by trying to control it, we're limiting it, we're micromanaging it, and it's decaying faster than it can do what it's designed to do, which is to build and to grow. Okay, decay is a part of life, so we're never going to necessarily stop that, but we're definitely driving ourselves much faster by trying to dominate this system rather than working with it. Network Spinal is a system of systems, and its full focus is to support human growth and evolution. And guess what? Healing and pain relief is a part of that. But that is like going to the bank, robbing a bank, and just walking out with the pens. It's like you miss the good stuff. Okay, this is a very complex system. We've got seasons, we've got stages, we've got phases, we've got gateways. Okay, this is just the basic and everything that I'm looking at whenever you show up and lay down on the table. Okay, so the seasons, just like the seasons of our environment, every season holds a certain type of organizational intelligence, and it holds a certain amount of energy, right? What has more energy, winter or summer? Summer. It's hotter. There's more stuff that's happening. There's more energy in the season of summer than there is in the season of winter. Right? If you go and you try to plant, if you go to try to harvest in wintertime, it's just not going to go well. The intelligence and the energy is not matched up for that. Okay. So we have to recognize that every single season has a value, right? And we have to get to know that. And certain of us are better in certain seasons. There's more energy that we hold in certain seasons, and we struggle. There's less energy in other seasons. So whenever you come in and you lay down on table, I'm trying to assess what season are you in? What season are you trying to be in? And what season do you need to be in? Every single season has a purpose. There's a time and a place to fertilize our soil. There's a time and a place to plant seeds. There's a time and a place to water and to nourish those seeds. There's a time and a place to harvest. But if you expect to harvest when it's time to get shitty, it's not going to go well. Okay. And what's the best fertilizer? It's the shit. So the season of Discover is all about recognizing how are we creating our own problems? How are we creating our own pain, our own challenges by trying to avoid what we don't want? How are we wasting our energy trying to stay in defense, trying to stay the same, trying to manage what we can't control? And if we just stop wasting our energy, we automatically have more of it. And if we have more energy, our body's going to be able to do more of it and more of what we want. So the lesson in Discover is to recognize when we need to stop wasting our energy trying to avoid a negative. Transform is when we're really getting stuff done, when we've recognized, wow, I'm in control of this. Oh my gosh, I didn't even recognize this. I'm taking my power back. I'm learning about this system. I'm exploring. I am really putting this system to the test. If this system is growing, where do I want it to grow? This is the direction that I want it to grow in. Now that it's grown, is this really how I want it? Do I need to test the system? Do I need to check things out? That's what transform is all about. Okay, that's nourishing the seed. That's helping it to grow in the right direction. And then awaken is harvest time. Awaken is where everything is amazing. We've done the growth. We've discovered who we really are. We've let go of all that we've been trying to be that just ain't us. And man, we are ready to really have an amazing, loving relationship with ourselves. And we're ready to share this relationship with the world. Okay? If we expect to be in awaken whenever we've got some hardcore healing that we need to do, that is not good. This is where, whenever we have this big gap between these two, this is where most of the time people end up in the hospital. Okay, so none of these are good or bad, right? We need to have relationships with all of them. And when we have relationships with all of them, we can go through all the different seasons in a second or two, depending on what's necessary. And that's where the season of integrate comes in. That's where we get to mix and match. We're like, I need a little bit of this and I need a little bit of that. And that's what's going to make this situation the best. Okay, again, this is going to be a whole other class that we're going to get to go into. The 12 stages of healing. Each one of those seasons is broken down into certain stages. Okay, and each stage, this is from Donnie Epstein's The 12 Stages of Healing, which we have this book out in the lobby, and I highly recommend that every single person get a copy and read it because it is phenomenal. This is the process of human change. No matter what change we need to make as a human system, it's going to involve every single one of these stages. Some of these stages we are better at, some of these stages we like more than other stages. But to get to know, to have a relationship, to be able to fuel yourself during each of these stages means that you can undergo rapid, massive, life-altering, extraordinary change in your life. Okay, this is also where SRI comes from. There are different exercises to help our system move through each one of these stages. Okay, the phases of distortion. Now, like I said before, the shape, tension, and tone of your spine is in direct relationship to the shape, tension, and tone of your life. If our nervous system is distorted, there is going to be a predictable distortion in either our experience and or our expression. So if you ever laid down on the table and I put my hands on you, I'm like, whoa, what's happening here? Or if I just start talking about something weird and you're like, that's weirdly specific, and I didn't really say anything about that. And then later on, you're like, oh, that's what he was talking about. Has anybody had an experience like that? Few people in this room. That's because I'm looking at these different phases and I'm going, wow, this person is having this experience. Now, these are the basics of this distortion, but when this phase shows up in a certain season or a certain stage, it's going to have a nuance to it. So again, I could have a whole class about this. But phase one, whenever a phase one spinal distortion shows up, which is going to be the skull or the very bottom, the sacrum, that's going to affect our experience of the past or the future. Okay, the past, we're going to be obsessed about it. We're going to be obsessed about it. And it was so great. And it just sucks that it can't happen now. And man, why can't everybody just get in line with how the past used to be? Or it's going to be, oh my gosh, the past was horrible. And I had this horrible experience. And because of that horrible experience, I am this horrible, defective person. And from here on out, that's just the way that things are going to be. Okay. Or it could be about the future. The future is terrible and I don't want it to happen. And I have to do everything I possibly can to make sure that I'm staying the same in this present moment. Or the obsession with the future. It's great. And I'm just going to live there. I'm going to imagine and I'm going to dream about it. And yeah, I'm just not going to do the dishes right now because that's just not important, because the future is going to be so amazing. Okay. Phase 2, which is the very top of the neck or the bottom of the neck, whenever that's distorted, that's going to affect our experience and our expression of either time or trust. There's not going to be enough time to do everything that I need to do. Or there's all of these things that I have to do and I just can't get them all done. Or I can't let go. I cannot open up and allow everything in my life to do what it's supposed to do for me. I have to maintain control of all this. Okay. Or I just can't trust myself. Like I just have to have somebody else come in and tell me what I need or what I don't need because I can't trust my own intuition. Okay. Phase 3, which is going to be the pelvis itself. Okay. This is what we call the shoulds, right? I should be, they should be, we should be, it should be, right? It's all dancing around reality. And reality is what is. It's who you are. It's your identity. It's how you fit in to the reality of the culture and the way that it is. The culture can be excessively controlling us, as in the culture says this is what I'm supposed to be, and therefore I should be, and I'm not, and therefore, man, I hurt. Okay. Or the culture says I should be, and F them. I'm going to do the exact opposite, right? So there's lots of different ways that this can show up, but phase 3 is a distortion in our sense of self and our identity and how we fit in. Okay. Phase 4, which is the middle portion of the neck, whenever this distortion shows up, it's going to affect our experience of passion. And we are going to ignore what lights us up. We're going to ignore being led by our heart. And instead, we are going to obsess with our heads. We're going to analyze and we're going to try to figure out and we're going to try to understand. And I can't make this happen until I see every little piece, instead of just going, oh, yes, this is right. Oh, I don't even know why this is right, but this feels so good. I didn't even know this was me, but yay. Right? We will exchange our passions for analyzing whenever the middle portion of our neck is distorted. And then here at the bottom, okay, this is the most intense one. Okay, and this is phase 5. And a phase 5 is whenever there is a double distortion in the system, whenever one part of the system is stuck and another part of the system is stuck in either the exact opposite or same. So this is a very, very intense distortion, and therefore it's going to affect our sense of abundance, our sense of possibility, our sense of infinity. Okay, well, this is just the way that I am, so why even try? Or, the world just doesn't work like that. So just why would I even want anything like that? Okay. And again, I said this before, but each one of these phases has a unique flavor whenever it shows up in different seasons, and it's having trouble accessing different intelligences. So again, it's a little bit more nuanced than what I just explained, but that's just the basics. And then there's gateways. Okay. Gateways are where we're actually adjusting. And yes, even though it is a light force, it's still an adjustment. Okay, I had somebody come in the other day and they were like, well, I kind of get it. This is a placebo. It's like, oh. Okay, a placebo is an inert substance, meaning the substance causes no change, but yet a change happens because that system believes there is a change that happened. Okay, so number one, a touch cannot be inert, because a touch actually has an effect, especially if you feel it. Okay, that's a double effect. Okay, number 2, we know this because when Network Spinal is studied, it works on animals and babies, and they are not subject to the placebo effect because from what we can understand, they don't really have beliefs. Okay. This has been studied, the largest chiropractic study that has studied the most amount of people was actually done on Network Spinal. And what they found out is that those breaths that you take and those little movements that you take, the somatopsychic wave and the breath wave, okay, those have a high level of coherence whenever we're looking at the muscles and how the muscles are working together electrically. And when a false touch or a fake touch, or the person just tries to mimic it, when that happens, there's not the same level of coherence that happens in the musculature. Okay, so we know that it's more than just a placebo because there's an effect that you can't express if you're just trying to fake it or if you get a fake adjustment. But those gateways that are touch, those are the parts of your body that actually have the most energy. They have the most potential. So what we're doing is we're accessing a point in time and space that has the most available potential that we can put the least amount of force into. And that's, again, why it's a light touch, and we get the most amount of change in the system. How do we know the system has changed? How do I know that your system either has more energy or I really messed it up and it has less energy? Whenever you get off the table and you're in better posture, whenever you are more relaxed, okay, whenever your breathing is different, whenever your movement is different, that means that your system has utilized the energy that we helped your system become aware of, and it is now at a higher level of organization. There is a time for a physical structural adjustment. Okay. The worst time to get a physical structural adjustment is whenever a system comes in and it's in energy poor, and there is just not the time, there is not the energy, there's not the potential to make a big enough change. That's where I will come in with traditional chiropractic, and I will help get that person unstuck momentarily with the knowledge that they are going to have to learn how to do it at some point. Okay, I do not want to be the hero in your life. I want to be the hero in anybody's life. I want you to be that hero. So you do not want this type of adjustment. If you need this type of adjustment, that is a really bad sign. Okay, thankfully, this is extremely rare. What happens more often? In network spinal, the structural adjustments are not to get you unstuck. They're actually to enhance the gains that you've already made. You've already got the ball rolling, and I'm just giving it a little bit more momentum because it's already going in the right direction. So when we give a structural adjustment in network spinal, that we have already seen that your system, not just you saying it, but we've seen that you and your system are fully committed to moving toward what you want. And you have really dropped the habit of just avoiding what you don't want. Okay. We've seen that you are embracing being responsible for your health. You're no longer coming in and asking me to fix you. You're like, hey, this is what's going on. What do you know about this? What can you teach me? What can I learn so that I can go change this in my life? Okay. We give structural adjustments to enhance what we've already developed for ourselves. Because again, I don't want to get you unstuck. I want to support you getting yourself and your life unstuck. So hopefully I've shed some light on some things that maybe most people don't know. Are there any questions? Anything that I brought up that you're like, I'd like to know more about that, or what the heck?
Question, can you in one sentence?
Marsha's asking, can I in one sentence? And I'm already starting to sweat.
What is spinal analysis?
Network spinal analysis is supporting you evolving into the best version of yourself. Don't ask me to say that again. Yes, Faith.
I have several, but the first one that comes to my mind that I remember is I feel like people use the word energy in all kinds of ways.
Absolutely. That's why I cringe.
About energy, and like, is it like the scientific word for energy?
Yes.
Or is this just essence or vibes that people are like when you talk about energy? What do you mean?
So whenever I talk about energy, it's the potential to do work. Whenever people are talking about essence or vibes, what they're really talking about is energy more on the electromagnetic spectrum. Okay. And our bodies can pick those up. Our bodies are electromagnetically sensitive, and some people are more sensitive to others. So there is a thing, like vibes and, good energies and auras and all that other stuff. And all of that is actually scientifically measurable. Okay. But whenever I talk about energy, what I want to know is, can I actually see and measure a change? Okay, a lot of times what happens is people will say, I'm doing energy work, because they're not really being accountable for seeing an actual change, right? They want to get the good vibes. Well, great. But if you experience good vibes, your body may do something different with those good vibes than someone else. There are people that are at a very low level of energy. And if you approach them with good vibes, they're going to see you as a target. They're going to see you as somebody that they could take advantage of, right? So good vibes, great. Yes, that's a thing. But again, is it practical? Does it allow us to evolve? Does it allow us to grow? I don't want to go into, a really nasty drug deal in, third world country and give off good vibes. I'm going to end up being a mule, right? So I'm very much talking about the scientific portion of this. The good vibes have a scientific basis, but it really comes back to, is it practical? Is it usable, right? Does it produce change or not? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, I think like the way I think about energy is heat and movement.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And that's a type of energy, right? But there are other types of energy that don't necessarily involve thermal and don't actually involve kinetic, right? And they're all scientifically measurable. And somebody asked the other day, why do I do these weird things whenever I'm coming to the body? And that's the recognition that my electromagnetic field and your electromagnetic field is part of our body. It's just outside the physical structure. So the way that I interact with that part of you, even though it's unseen, has an effect on the physical structure. So that's why you see me kind of doing the weird movements out over in space, is because I am connecting with you, but just the you that's outside the physical cells. Yes.
So it kind of leads into when you touch, I know that when you first lie down, you're assessing your spine
Yes.
and the where it is, and when you touch, do you actually feel heat or do you feel something, or you're just trying to bring our awareness so that our bodies adjust to that?
So the question is whenever somebody first lays on the table and I'm doing my assessment, and what exactly am I looking for and feeling? Okay. And that is a very complex question. And it really comes down to the basis of it is, where is the energy in your system and where does it need to be? Okay. If I come across a tight muscle, does that tight muscle have a lot of energy, or does it have a little bit of energy? A lot of energy, right? We can use that. Do you need to stay tight at this moment? Probably not. So when we use that energy, right, I want to see that energy that was being used to create that tight muscle. I want to see that show up somewhere else that needs it. Okay, whenever our bones are really stiff, right, is that a lot of energy, or is that a little bit of energy? Right, it's a lot of energy. That's energy that can be used. But again, do you need to use it in that way? So I'm assessing not only where is your spine distorted, but I'm assessing how is your body holding energy. And this actually leads me into another question that somebody asked not too long ago, which is, what's going on with your ankles? Why are you always going down to my ankles? Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing real quick. So when our spinal cord is caught or it's distorted, our body is going to defend around that. And our ankles, which is the very bottom portion of that defense, is where we connect to the outside environment the most. It's going to hold itself in a certain position based on where that tension is in our nervous system. Okay, so if there's a lot of flexion, extension, tension on our spinal cord, I'll be able to flex the ankles and I'll feel where the body's guarding that. And if it's right at the beginning, the body's guarding it up here. If it's down low, I mean, it's at the very end of that movement, it's down here. Same with lateral bending. And whenever I move our legs side to side, or whenever I move our legs up, I'm looking at, again, how is the body holding that tension in different places? And that tells me, it's another indication more than just what you say and how your body feels. It's another indication of this is where the body's holding the most energy, and this is where the body needs that energy to be in. Did that surprise anybody? Did you think I was reading your past? Yes, Lori.
Get that you're visually watching the body and by touch you're feeling what's tight and things like that. But if you're talking about seasons and flavors, where does your intuition come from?
My intuition, I always make sure is secondary. I want to make sure that what's actually in front of me is I'm absorbing all of that information. And after all of that information has been absorbed, right? And then I'll let myself kind of go off into intuition. But if my intuition says one thing and the body in front of me says something else, it's like, okay, wait a minute, I'm off. I need to make sure that what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what I'm seeing, and what that person is expressing is all the same. Otherwise, I'm missing a bit of information. Yes.
When you're adjusting, you pull thread.
When I'm adjusting and I pull threads. It is getting juicy. It is getting juicy. So that comes back to the gateways, and that comes back to where we're holding energy in our system. Okay. Now, when I'm looking at the seasons and the stages, again, I can tell that not only by the way that you show up and the way that you're speaking and the way you're thinking and the way you're behaving, but I can also tell by the way that the body's using its energy, right? If the body's using a lot of energy in its muscular system and it to stay stiff in its skeletal system, right? It's not open, ready to share its gifts. It's not in awaken, right? It's going to be much more in discover. So again, your body's telling me that. But these gateways, these points in time and space, they also have a specific shape. They have a specific structure based on how the energy is being used. And again, the body is much more than just the physical. It's also the electromagnetic field around it. So by having the body sense, for lack of better terms, farther out away from itself, for the body to be able to say this potential is not only here, but it's also here. Oh yeah, I totally forgot that I could use that potential over there. Okay. Not only do we do that with the gateways, but we also do that with the areas that we call that resonance, that are holding specific defensive responses that are resonant with that part of the spine. There's also, whenever we're kind of moving through the electromagnetic field to help the body to recognize, oh yeah, this is a much more efficient way of using this energy. Okay. And the farther out the body goes, the more we're in kind of one of those later seasons. Whenever we're real close to the body, that's whenever we're kind of more in the beginning stages. Yes.
In your phases, I definitely resonate with the overthinking.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a popular one.
Disgusts me. And I do cognitively and awareness say, okay, let's get out of there. And let's, okay, where, like you say, where are you feeling it and all that? I try to pay attention. I guess my question is, what are some nuances? Can you just give any tips on that to be a little more connected with the body, how to listen and get out of the head and get more?
Well, this is the challenge, because if you have a distortion, you can't see your way out of it, right? Whenever you've got colored glasses on, everything looks that color, right? And you can think about other colors, right? You can notice, oh, this is a little bit different than this, but that color is shading everything. So this is not necessarily something that we can pull ourselves out of, especially with our minds. Okay. Now, network spinal can kind of help unravel some of the things that hold us in those different distortions, but there are other things that can help us do that. Yoga is traditionally one of those. There's lots of different types of body work that can definitely happen in, but this is not something that we can do on our own because it's shading how we are experiencing and how we're expressing. So it's only on the other side of it that we'll be able to look back and go, oh, I definitely had that distortion and I had the other one. And one other element to that is that some of these distortions are management strategies. Okay, if we don't know who we are, we're not fully accepting who we are, if we are constantly in the land of should, it makes more sense to try to figure things out than feel things out, because we're not ourselves and everything's going to feel worse when we're not ourselves. So some of those distortion patterns, okay, I don't address because your body needs those. It needs those to manage life because of other distortion patterns.
Like
And
a survival technique.
exactly, exactly. So don't think that those distortions are bad. Those distortions are actually ways of managing life. And life's way better when we don't have to manage. But when we do need to manage, we need those spinal distortions. It just sucks when we get stuck in them.
Yeah, because I do find like things that come up that are mental. I say, wait a minute, I'm thinking it, but I'm not feeling that.
You got it.
And it's like, is that just a habit that?
Yeah. And for some of us, it can be. Some of us, we can be stuck in it. And and if you were one of those people that were truly stuck in it, you wouldn't even be asking this question. You'd be like, well, this is the way that it is.
Well, that's, yeah.
Yes.
So what happens if you're consistently seeing someone with the same distortion over and over? Is that because it's a management, or it's because they're in the process of breaking that pattern?
So if I see somebody at the same level, in the same distortion pattern, in the same season, that means I'm not doing my job. That's what that means. What I will typically see is I will see a very common distortion pattern, but I will see that person asking unconsciously through their body to have that distortion addressed in a multitude of different ways. Okay, it can be a management strategy. And if I'm always just affecting the management strategy, we're not really going to make that much progress, because the management strategy is what's being used, is what's being done. We want to be able to identify what's causing that management strategy. And then that's the distortion phase that we will use to go through all of those seasons and all of those levels at your unique way of doing that. But also recognize that different times in life, we have different distortion patterns that we get stuck in. So if you go and visit family, I'm going to see a distortion pattern that you probably had as a child, compared to if you just get done with an argument with your boss. That's going to be a much different distortion pattern. So lots of different distortion patterns show up. And I've kind of gotten used to not asking why, because there's so many factors that go into this. It's just like, hey, let's just move on. Yes.
No. So my other question was, like, you know, when we come in and you say, how are you doing today, babe? Or whatever you say every time, right? And what is helpful to answer? I mean, there's a bazillion.
You got it.
Answers, right?
Honesty.
So we can talk about what happened last week.
You got it.
Talk about what happened just before I
Absolutely.
showed up. I could, like, there's so many answers.
You got it. What comes to mind is based on how much energy you have. Okay. If you have, yes, you got it. You got it. And you do that based on the energy that you have access to and how that energy is being processed. Right. So if you come in and you're like, Tad, I've got a lot on my mind and I am filtering through a whole bunch of it. That's like, oh, I know exactly where you are. And then I can meet you there. So when I'm asking you, hey, what's going on? What I'm asking for you is to validate what I'm seeing on the table. Right. Because if you come in and you're like, life is crap and I hate everybody, and you lay down on the table, I'm like, oh, awaken. All right, something's not right. I'm not seeing. What I'm looking for is what you're saying, is how your body's showing up, is what I'm seeing all consistent. And if it is, that's where I know to go. And if it's not consistent, that means I need to gather more information.
Well, I mean, I'm just gonna ask more, like.
Sure.
So, for instance, I rarely tell you events that are happening in my life.
Sure.
I tell you exactly sensations that I'm feeling.
You got
or
it.
Maybe emotion.
You got it. You got it.
Or if my head's clear, or if it's not, I try and think of like, in this moment.
Yep.
What am I experiencing? But I rarely tell you events. But then you're talking and I'm like, oh, maybe he wants events. Maybe
No,
it's
no, no.
helpful.
It has nothing to do with what I want.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So do you mind if I get a little personal?
Go for it.
Okay, good. So if I could restate what you say,
Yeah.
what you just said, you are coming in here and you're looking for what you should say,
Yeah.
right?
Or what's helpful. So that's what
I should say, exactly. So how many times have I crossed your leg over? How many times have I asked you to reach your pelvis to the side, right? The reason you think that, the reason you're looking for those shoulds is because of one of those distortion patterns, right? So when you say that, when I see you struggling for that, that's another indication of what I need to be looking for. And again, if that doesn't show up, I need to take a step back and say, okay, am I influencing this too much? Have I not gathered enough information? Because I don't want to just do something, right? When we do something, we want to be efficient, and it needs to be at the right place at the right time for the right reason, right? So all of this is just gathering information so that I can give you the best adjustment. There is no should and there's no what I want, right? It's just where you are. So the best thing that you can do is be as brutally, blatantly honest as you possibly can. And if you're like, I got a bunch going through my head and I don't even know what to tell you. I'm like, okay, great. Phase 3.
Well, like a lot of times we just don't recognize it.
Most of the time we don't. You got it.
Say it, then I go, oh, maybe I was really holding.
Absolutely.
I don't realize it sometimes.
You got it. And that's why, thankfully, it's not all up to what you say, right? It's up to what I'm feeling. It's what I'm seeing. It's what your body's expressing. How does your body react on the table, right? So we have 3 different ways of triangulating. What is the best way to support your system in the moment?
Question.
Yes.
So like, like when you do what you're doing and helping us with, and then we get up off the table and I notice a big difference. And then sometimes, it's great for a week or so. And then sometimes it's like the next day, I'm like, oh my gosh, what happened?
Right.
But I don't realize. And then so sometimes I'll just kind of remember what you did on the table. Is that okay? Like if you said like, oh, pay attention to hear and breathe,
Yeah.
is that helpful? I don't
I don't know.
It seems like it is.
Is it?
I don't know.
Does it work? Does it produce a change? Then keep doing it. Right? What we're doing on the table is helping your unconscious mind, which is your body, develop these sensory motor strategies to be more adaptive, to be able to process information differently. If you repeat something, you probably will get something out of it. Will it be the exact same thing that you learned that your body learned on the table? Probably not, but is it worth a try? Yeah, sure. But just, again, don't expect it to have the exact same result, because there's difference between, again, whenever somebody is adjusted and the way their body responds versus when they're trying to do that. But movement and exercise is great. So again, if it works, do it. Yes. I'm mumbling a whole bunch of crap, Lori. A whole bunch of crap. Yes. So do you remember let me do this real quick.
I mean, besides your singing, which is very, very nice.
Yes, yes. So I love this question because this allows me to go way deeper than I'm comfortable with. So if I am here, okay, I have enough energy to maintain my system. Okay, yay for me. If I'm here, okay, I'm actually drawing energy from your system. Okay, that's no good for anybody. If I'm up here, okay, there's enough energy not only for my system to grow, but for your system also. So everything that I'm doing is to keep my energy as absolutely rich as possible. Okay, it's to keep me focused. If I'm over here and I'm touching your body, but I'm thinking about an argument that I had with my daughter, right? That's not good. That's not good for you, and it's not good for me. So everything that I'm doing is to keep my focus so that I can maintain as much energy rich as I possible, so that my system is actually spilling over energy into the systems of this room. Okay, so it's more to keep me focused in the present moment, here and now, so that I'm not dropping my energy level. I've told a few people this, but the guy that teaches this tells us practitioners that we have the luxury of having a bad day for about 5 minutes. It's like, that's all you get. Have your pity party, woo woo all you want, get into it, wallow into it. Okay. But if you have not shifted back into energy rich within 5 minutes, you're doing a major disservice to the people in your office. And it's like, oh, okay, got it. Got it right away. So what the standard that I hold for you is very high, because I want you to be the most amazing version of yourself that has the biggest impact on humanity. Okay, the standard that I hold for myself is crazy.
So you do an assessment. Are we going to get to the point to where we can assess ourselves and look at that the same way you are, going, look, I'm energy poor. I need to do this to get the energy rich.
The potential is there, absolutely. And so the question was, is it possible for me to assess myself and identify what energy state I'm in, what season am I in, what stage am I in? Okay, everything except for the spinal distortion patterns, the answer is yes. And if you really, really want to learn this, okay, then going to Epi-Energetics, which is Donnie Epstein's institute that he teaches from, and taking the year-long course of alchemy. That's the way to do it. I would be doing you, I mean, I can share a little bit with you, but to learn from the master himself, that is absolutely what I recommend. I've taken this year-long course myself. We've got 2 practice members that have taken it. We've got 3 practice members that are going to be taking it this year. But alchemy is the process of learning everything except for the spinal distortion patterns and how to apply it to your life, so that you can have as big of an impact on yourself and other people that you receive in here. It's everything except for the chiropractic point.
So that's a big step.
It's a huge
Right,
step.
So if I'm with a client and I'm walking in and I'm
Yeah.
energy pure, can I learn to go?
100%.
I just want to
100%.
energy.
Absolutely. You could learn to walk in and immediately know where your system is and where that person's system is. And is this going to be a match, or do I need to shift something so that both of us walk away being better off than we walked into this situation? And that is 100% possible. It is an incredible journey to learn this. It's a huge responsibility to learn this. And alchemy is definitely the place to go.
There's no quick and easy.
There is no quick and easy thing. Sorry about that. But you, at this point, you know way more than the average bear does. I will tell you that. And I know that you're working it in your life because I've seen it. Anybody else? Yes.
By us on the table.
Sometimes you're a pain in the ass. I'm just kidding. I have to make sure that I'm fueled. Sometimes it's easier than others. Okay. And yes. Yes.
But that almost fuels me
Yeah.
to interact with them and,
100%.
give them some attention and I'm wondering if that's how.
Yes,
Sometimes
I
wonder
am
if you're
very,
exhausted
yeah.
At the end of the day, because you know.
Yes,
I mean,
yeah. I make sure that I'm fueled. Okay, that's the real answer. I love what I do. Absolutely. It is super energizing. I love seeing progress and changes. Sometimes I get super annoyed by a person not making the changes that I think they want to change. When that happens, I know that I'm low energy neutral. Okay, because I'm not honoring where that person is. And if I'm not honoring where that person is, I'm not going to be able to have the biggest impact on them. So there's like this dance that I have to do of being fueled and energized by what I do, but not relying on what I do to fuel and energize me. That's a very, very nuanced dance.
You're probably fueled by others,
Yes.
yeah.
and that's why you enjoy
Yeah.
that process.
That'll be another class. Internal, external, fueled by others. Yeah.
And by serving.
Yes, one more question.
I feel like, there was a time when I would come twice a week. And sometimes
Oh,
I
yeah.
wish that maybe that second visit could be just you and I having a conversation.
Yes.
Like, and I'm sure each of us feel the same way, what's going on in our lives because we share that with you here.
Right.
Would the second visit be, just a conversation where?
Yes, that would be the one-on-one consultations or the PI, the pain integration experience. Okay, but this is a chiropractic office, and that's what we mostly do. I know, but part of that, it's not necessarily therapy, right? It's doing something similar, but then outside of chiropractic. So the chiropractic adjustment here is primary and will always be primary. There are going to be avenues that are going to be opening up in the future for more of that type of stuff, but it's not therapy. It's much more learning. It's that education piece so that you get to know through me helping you to experience more of yourself, but again, outside of the chiropractic application. That is the alchemy mentor. And we will, yeah.
Just for people in here, if you're feeling like that, like, and my son, he keeps doing the same thing. He keeps going away.
Yeah, I'm always gonna say.
Yeah.
But the one-on-one thing was extremely helpful for me, just to have a conversation
Yes.
about.
Now, with that said, Stacy, can I share a little bit of personal information? Okay, so Stacy has been to multiple gates, which is the Donnie Epstein event where you go through all 12 stages in a weekend. Stacy has been to Ultimatum. She's been to all. Her system has had a tremendous amount of strategies that she has developed. Okay, the farther you go in care, the more benefit you get. Whenever this system was studied, they were looking for, okay, like when do you get maximum benefit? And what they found was the longer someone was in care, the more benefit they were getting because their system was better at adapting. And adaptation means you take in life and you use it for growth, for evolution, and for efficiency. So Stacy can get more out of one of those one-on-one sessions than somebody that's had maybe a month or two worth of care. So like I said in the beginning, once you start going into this, you're never going to go back. You are developing, you're learning unconsciously in the beginning, but later on, once your body gets so open to all of this stuff, what you can do with adding the mental element into it is really extraordinary. But again, because this is chiropractic, the foundation is always the body and the spine. And then everything else is in addition to that. Okay, as alchemy starts to develop, you're going to start hearing more about alchemy mentors. And those are the people that are just going to be doing that other stuff that we did one-on-one. And again, that's awesome. I love that. I kind of think that would be a really fun job, but hey, we're already in this.
Switching part is having multiple.
Yes.
things, and so belief is physical. It is a physiological experience. So I think what you're experiencing is a change or an alteration or a potential of having more than just a singular experience.
Right.
And that changes how your body ends up expressing. Maybe it's even less painful because you have now changed your whole perception. You no longer are locked in that belief. That's why the coaching is so powerful. I think even in just like probably like habits. Like one little tag nugget, and you're like, oh, God. And then now you've changed your whole view. And that's so helpful when you need to rewire your emotional system, your mental system, or your physical system, because belief is physiological and you'll notice it. You'll notice it in people. So people who are very rigid in their beliefs will eventually be very lost. So I think that's probably part of what you.
And all of those little tag nuggets are based on where is your system, what season is it in, what stage is it in. But again, systems that have a low amount of energy, they're going to require more input than just a word. Systems that are higher level of energy and have the ability, the strategies, it could just be a sound. It doesn't even have to be a word, and their system could utilize that to break through to the next level. So again, the progress in developing through this type of work is very important. Anybody else? Yes.
Well, to add to what you were just saying, I do feel I've never felt this has just been physical. From day one, it has been physical, mental, emotional.
Got it,
And
because it's
like, I'm
health.
going to get my therapy. And
Yes.
I mean, all of those.
Yeah.
And I mean, even now to the point where I'll reread a book that I've read 89 times. And it's like, wow, it's an epiphany. I guess it's because, well, I guess.
Because you're at a different level.
The teacher.
That's it.
I could now see it.
You got it. You got
And
it.
and I have used your one-on-ones, and it was a decision I needed to make, and it really helped the clarity from my body, not my mind. And it looked at things, so I guess I appreciate the evolution. And I know you say it's us, but I do think it's a teamwork.
Yes, it is a
And
teamwork. I love being part of your process. Anybody else? I did. It's recorded. It's on Facebook already. Hopefully I'm going to get it up on YouTube and do some editing.
I didn't know how to share. Is a breath wave important to, or movement?
So the question is the breath wave or the movements important? That we talked, yes, the breath wave and the somatopsych wave movements are very important. We've talked about that in the orientation video. Most of you were sent that orientation video whenever you first started. Some people in the room have been with me way before I created that. So if you haven't seen the orientation video, let me know and I'll give you access to it. I mean, I made it, so I'm a little biased, but I think it's pretty good. But it goes into the basics of what the breath wave is, what it does, what the somatopsychic wave is, what it does, what are those different stages and levels of care, what are the predictable physiological and psychological changes at each one of those levels. So that's a different class, and we already have that recorded. So if anybody wants it, let me know. Make sure I have for everybody in the room, I already have your email address. So let me know if you're watching online and you would like access to that. If you're not in Colorado Springs and can't come in person, leave your or personal message me and give me your email address and I'll make sure you get it. And yes.
I have one more question.
No, good.
So,
Yes.
So I've been here for 1.5 years with you, and it's kind of the same pattern. And so I'm like, okay, when is this going to be like, when do you move on to another distortion? Come on. And so, my question is like, she was asking, like, what are things that we can do outside of just coming that will not speed up the process, but in a sense, like, that we can support it and really grow. Yeah, faster. It is speeding up the process. Okay, that's the question.
So do you mind if I share some of your information?
Totally, go. For
Okay,
it.
good. Do you remember whenever you first started and your sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system were both below functioning normal?
Yes,
And do you remember what they were last time?
they were both normal.
That's it. Just because you came in and we're always addressing the same pattern doesn't mean you're not making progress. Okay. There is no end except for death. There is always something to work on. There's always something to grow from. There's always something to evolve into. There's always more to be explored. So do not think that just because we have to address the same distortion pattern means that you somehow are not there yet. Okay, you are doing it. You're doing it with the help of having that distortion addressed. Right? That's it. It may take 10 years, right? Depending on how ingrained that is into your life before another spinal distortion pattern shows up to be the prime focus. But just because we're focusing on one doesn't mean you're not making progress. This is why we do all of those objective and subjective measures, right? And this is why, again, the guy that developed this said, this is about changing lives, right? Sometimes spines get better. Okay, so I do have a class on what you can do to support the work here. The simplest solution is to get the 12 Stages of Healing book and read that and start doing some of those exercises. That's the most no-brainer question or answer that I can give you, because again, it's going to support this. But there are some other things that you can do to support that, and I'm pretty sure that that class is up on YouTube, but we will have that entire class coming up again pretty soon. But SRI and reading the 12 Stages of Healing is by far one of the most foundational. Anybody else?
Well, I'm just gonna say I'm probably the longest
There's
patient for dad.
there's a couple runners up.
Here, this person is there for the first time and then but it's come back for me.
Yeah.
In different ways and different times, and it's like, okay, we thought you feel it in that situation, you probably did, you adapted, but it was deeper than I wanted to go then. So I've grown, now I can go here for this evolution because you're not ready for all of it.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. Really good recognition. Yeah. Yeah. There was how this still cracks me up. There's a sociologist that actually helped Nelson Mandela come up with a plan to go through apartheid, disabling apartheid without like throwing the country into a civil war. And he developed this system called spiral dynamics. And it's a way of identifying why do two people in the same situation have totally different desires and want seeming completely opposite things, and how can we have everybody feel that they're being supported in whenever they want total opposite things. But one of the things that he said, and I understand this more and more as I experience more and more of life, if humanity truly, completely experienced pure peace, it would look for the first cliff to jump off of. We are designed to grow. We are designed to evolve. Okay, if we are not growing, if we are not making progress, there are mechanisms in our brain that get triggered to make us miserable. So it sounds great to get to this point where we never have to work on that again. Okay, but there's a lot of misery that actually happens at that point. Making progress is very much a part of health and wellness and happiness and satisfaction, right? Good news is you get to choose what you make progress on. But I have being dragged kicking and screaming into the realization that making progress is what I'm really after. It's not a place. It's not a thing. It's not an achievement. It's a process. It is, because we think if I could just get this thing, then I'd be happy. And then we get it and we're like, oh, but what about that thing? Right? You got it. And then you'll want to get it again. And then again, and then again, right?
So comfort isn't necessarily the goal. It's
No.
the process of.
Comfort is the reward. Comfort is the indication that you've made the growth. If we seek comfort before we make the growth, we won't make the growth. Well, why would you make the growth? Why would you change? If it feels good, if it's perfect, what? Right? So comfort is definitely a part of the equation, but it's the reward for the growth. It's not the goal. Anybody else? All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and shut this down right now. So thanks everybody for tuning in. And